Hey y'all, it's your girl Toyia T, and I thought I would come to you with my costume on for Halloween, just donning my Minnie Mouse ears. Minnie Mouse has a special place for me because many of you know I was on Family Feud with my family in, I think it was like 2015, and one of the questions they asked was, who else do you see at Disney other than Mickey? And at the time I didn't have any kids. So I said, Daffy? And I got 0.0. So I will never forget. Minnie is the right answer. And you will definitely see her at Disney if you go. And you want to see Mickey or Minnie, which one? Today we have a great show in store. This is our dating show. We have looked forward to this for a while because people have been like, hey, like there's a whole lot going on in the dating scene. We actually had two guests. I don't know if Armein's going to show up, but we had Armein Kirkland, who is a former UC basketball player. We also have Eileen Cobbs here with us. And we're just going to share some perspective about dating, about what our experience has been like, about what we would like to see, and what we didn't like about the dating experience. I think especially in good old Cincinnati. With that, I will go ahead and welcome my guests. Ailleen, do you want to come on screen and do a brief introduction of who you are and why you think that you can give us some insight on dating?
Thank you, Toyia. Thank you. Again, Eileen Cobbs. I am a realtor for Keller Williams Seven Hills. I'm also a fitness instructor for Crunch Kenwood. So I'm definitely out there and active and doing my thing. And why do I think I have some advice on dating? I've been out here for about 3 years. And so Cincinnati is interesting. Dating is interesting. So, I was married for a long time, kind of thrown out in the dating scene, sort of like you. I was married for a long time, and dating in your 40s is definitely not dating in your 20s. And so I definitely have some advice to give.
Absolutely. And I hear an accent. Aren't you of Hispanic descent as well?
I am Latina.
Latina.
Yes.
All right. So we wanna make sure we bring that in as well. Tell us a little bit about that perspective, dating inside and outside of your culture. We'll get into all of that. So
I'm here for it.
I want to just kind of start out by making sure that we thank our platinum sponsor, the Stadium 513. They are coming soon near Hamilton Avenue, just up from Mount Healthy High School. So look out for the Stadium 513. They're coming. That is going to be a new sports bar and grill, and we're making sure that we support small businesses because we know they've all been impacted by COVID. So make sure you support the Stadium 513 as our platinum sponsor for tonight's event. So tell me, Ailleen, how would you describe your most recent relationship? How did you meet them? Is it an exclusive relationship? Are you poly? What are some of the details of the relationship?
And you know what? When you had said poly, you're going to have to explain to me what poly is. What exactly is poly?
Let me break that down for you. So the one thing that I will say is, this whole dating experience, the first time around, poly wasn't a thing. But this time around, there's been a lot of people that have, introduced the whole poly concept. And it's not something that I'm into, but I know there are a lot of people that are open to a poly lifestyle, which means that it's polyamorous. There are multiple partners. So it might be 2 women, it might be 2 men in a relationship with another person of the opposite sex. So it's basically, from what I've understood, to be like more of a partnership with multiple people.
Got it.
So that's what poly is. When we say poly, that's what we mean. If you've had any of those experiences, definitely we want to hear about it.
No, I have not. I definitely, I like to say I'm a little old school. I definitely, I didn't realize how traditional I was, but I'm definitely traditional. My last relationship, how would I describe it as toxic.
Okay.
I was definitely the only one in the relationship, dating exclusively, but the only one in the relationship, whatever that means. There was definitely lessons that I learned from that experience, flags that I definitely saw, but just disregarded. So it was definitely, I wouldn't even say wasted time, but it was just lessons learned that as I go into new relationships and new experiences, I can pick those lessons up and just change behavior and move forward.
What do you think was toxic about the relationship, and what were some of those red flags that you think, looking back, hindsight, maybe you should have, did something differently?
Some of the red flags that I saw was just other women that I just looked the other way. I attribute it to the fact that I was married for so long that when I jumped into that relationship soon after my divorce, that I took that same concept of loyalty and forgiveness. And so when I was with this man, even though he did things that I knew weren't normal, I still had that idea like, you know what, we're in this relationship and I have to forgive you and I have to be loyal, not realizing that I wasn't married to him. And those red flags that I saw from the beginning, I should have just ran. But again, those were lessons learned.
Right. And a lot of us don't run, right? I was just having a conversation. I did a couple of teasers yesterday about the show and some of the different topics. And one of the things that I can't remember who said it, but what he said was a lot of women are just happy to have a man. Mm-hmm. So they don't necessarily have stipulations on either what that man should make or what they should experience from that man. Instead, they're just taking what they can get and being happy with it, which to me is just crazy. Because we are living in a world that's so big now. I mean, everything is virtual. You don't have to date in your backyard anymore. So the pickings are, to me, that much broader because you can be on a flight to anywhere in an hour for $200. So there's no reason to put up with the shenanigans that happens in good old Cincinnati. That's just my perspective.
You're absolutely right. Like I said, I just got into this mode of, I love you, and we're going to work through this together. But it wasn't worth it. You know what I mean? And it's just realizing when is it. And luckily, I didn't spend as much time as I could have. You know what I mean? I definitely got out of it at the right time. But yeah.
But we live and we learn, right? Absolutely. And so one of the questions that we talked about in the teaser was around women making more than men and how that contributes or doesn't contribute to the relationship and the dynamic of the relationship. And then also the piece around dating in our race or outside our race. Are you somebody that dates interracially, and what was that experience like? And also, have you dated people that, made significantly less money than you, and how has that impacted the relationship or changed the dynamic?
So I have only dated outside of my culture. I've only dated outside of my culture. I can't even answer that. I don't even know why. Not that, there's some very great Latin men, but I just always had a thing for, I loved Dominican men, Black men, Puerto Rican men. As long as they had some color, I was there. But I think that's just my preference. I've never dated outside of, I've never dated a white man. You know what I mean? I've just never done that. But I felt that within our culture, even though there are differences, but there's so many similarities. And so in dating someone as a Black man or, even of another race, there are definitely similarities that you can understand each other versus, and I'm not saying that I would never date a white man, but that's just not something that I see in my future.
Okay. And what about the income situation? Have you dated someone that you made more money than, and how did that impact respect with the relationship or how they responded to you?
I did. And I feel that as a couple, you're a team. And everyone has strengths and weaknesses. And in that case, even though you might not be bringing finances, what are you bringing to the table? And I've always had the mindset that if I have, you have, and I hope that the man that I'm with has that same idea. So no, as long as they're contributing in some other way, again, you're a team, especially if you are talking about relationship in a God-formed relationship. There again are going to be weaknesses and strengths within each other. But if you look at it as a team, we're going to go forward regardless. And I'm not counting. It's just like a game, when you're a team, unless you're keeping stats for marketing reasons because you want to get traded, you're a team. And It doesn't matter who scores. We're scoring together and we're moving forward as a team. And so I think that same concept in a relationship is, you might not be making as much money as me, but how else are you contributing? And as long as we're moving forward as a couple and as a unit, that's all I can ask for.
Right. I think the problem comes in when they aren't contributing, right? So they're not contributing financially, they're not contributing to the household, they're not contributing to the kids. It's like, what are you contributing to?
Nothing.
And so I think that's where it starts to kind of kick in, where it's like, okay, let me reevaluate whether or not we're a team or if this is just kind of me leading the charge and you just kind of coming along for the ride. And I think we have to be mindful of that, especially coming out of a divorce, because you're right. When you're married, you do feel this sense of partnership and wanting to make sure that the unit is secure, and you're always looking out and trusting and wanting to make sure that you're forgiving and doing all of those things. But I think what happens is you come out of that marriage and then you're in today's world, right? Which is not your marriage and is not your husband. And you have to reevaluate all of that. Many of my viewers know that I was married for 15 years. I know I look 25, but yes, I was married for 15 years. I was married at 25. And the dating scene when I was in my 20s, is very different from the dating scene that I came out to in 2019, I guess is when my divorce was final.
Right.
And so to me, it's a different environment. And so as a result, you have to respond differently.
Right.
So what did you do differently when you came out into this dating scene and our new world order, and what advice would you give to someone else that's going about dating and trying to figure it all out? And just how have you been successful in this dating market?
That's a good question. I was married for 24 years. I was
again married. Don't look a day over 25.
I know, right? So for 24 years. But what I would say is you have to be willing. And the advice that I would give is just be willing to love and willing to be vulnerable. The right position to be exactly. I see a lot of women who have so many rules and so many a list of things that they require in a man, and no shade to anyone, but the whole boss babe idea, and I'm bringing this to the table, what are you bringing? I don't really think that works for a relationship. At the end of the day, it's about true vulnerability. And if you want to be loved, you have to be open and willing to love yourself. You know what I mean? And so I would just say, for me, it's just taking those risks. I know that at the end of the day, my heart might be broken. At the end of the day, there may be losses, but that's what life is to take those risks, to be vulnerable, to love, and to give love. Just as I want to love, I want someone to love me that same way. So I would just say, just go for it. Just if that's what you want is love, go for it. And there's no games to be played, wait for someone to call you back, or, just wait, wait for him to call you. All of those games, especially at our age, are a waste of time.
Right.
If you really want
it's like if you want to call him, pick up the phone and call him.
Call him. If you want to spend time, spend
it's
time.
Totally fine. And if you get to a point where you feel like it's not balanced, then maybe you pull back your energy a little bit, because maybe he's just not feeling you like that. And I think that's the other piece of it that I saw in this day and age, is that there are more men that want to be chased. And that's just not my style. So the whole chasing thing, it's like, I'm not doing that. Either we're going to have a balance back and forth, or we're just not. and that's just the reality of it. And I love myself enough to know, hey, this is what I expect from you, and this is what I'm going to give in return. And I always tell my cousins, they think I'm crazy, because I'm like, I'm the type of person that I want to feel all the pain, and I want to feel all the love, because I feel like if you don't feel all the pain, then when all the love comes, you don't appreciate it as much, because you haven't gone through anything. You haven't had to deal with the downs, right? And we all have those, but you can't have those downs, or like you said, have your heart broken, if you're not willing to put your heart out there to see if it's going to be broken or loved or embraced or whatever that looks like. So it's a whole idea of going through the wilderness. So we've been through the wilderness. You know what I mean? We know what it feels like to be in that time of our life where just things weren't working out. We know what that feels like. And so now that you're out of the wilderness, you don't want to do what you did back then, the lessons that you learned. So, it's just, again, just moving forward, learning those lessons and keep moving. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm not trying to go back to the wilderness. I know that you're kind of in the dating scene still. Would you say that opposites attract? And would you say that that is for the long haul, or is that something that you think that is just for a short term? And the second part of that question is, do you think that forever is still a thing? Like, given everything that's gone on and the fact that you had a divorce and, we're back out into this dating scene, do you think that forever is still a thing? Forever better be a thing. I want forever to be a thing for me. I think for sure. I think if you have the right person, then forever is definitely, just because you failed once or twice doesn't mean that you're going to fail again. You know what I mean? Just as God gives us grace and, we fall and we get back up, use that same concept in a relationship. Lessons learned. So no, there's definitely forever. And I'm a hopeless romantic. Me too. I always say I can't wait for my Noah. I don't know if you've ever watched The Notebook. It's like one of my favorite love stories, and I'll watch it over and over again just to see them fall in love and die together. Because I'm a hopeless romantic. Yeah, but I believe that that's out there. I believe, like, if you truly put your energy into the right person, that is out there. And see, I think that's where the mistake is, that we choose people who are not even going in the same direction that we're going. You know what I mean? When you talk about do opposites attract, I think that opposites do attract. I definitely don't want someone that is exactly like me. There's definitely differences, but I think at the end of the day, your morals and your values have to match. You might be completely off. You might like bowling. I don't like bowling. There's so many differences. But at the end of the day, those morals and standards and values have to be the same for the relationship to work.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You have to have something in common, right? Like, even if
Absolutely.
you're opposites in some areas, you have to have some things that you like to do together, some things that you guys have in common that you enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you're meeting this representative, and then when the real person shows up, you're like, I don't really like this
Well,
new
yeah,
person. Like,
exactly.
that's not the
But
guy that I thought I would feel for.
I think that if you like someone that, I mean, if you're really into someone, there has to be um, a willingness to change, reasonably. But there has
Mhm.
to be a willingness to change. I always say that in a relationship, there has to be sacrifice. And I know some of my girlfriends question when I say that, but I say it's sacrifice. And in love, it's choosing the other person. Um, it's choosing what makes them happy, what makes them smile. When you allow that person just to be happy, it should make you happy. And
Right.
hopefully your partner has that same concept and it just works together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that they're going to return the favor.
Exactly.
And I think that's a big piece of it, right? Is just being able to measure whether or not are we on the same page? Are we going in
Mhm.
the same direction? Do you
Right.
want similar things that that I want?
Exactly.
Or are we going in two opposite directions? And I think identifying that early on is really important because just like you were saying with your past relationship, knowing that it was toxic, sometimes we continue to stay even though we see those red flags just because it's
Exactly.
convenient or because it's what we already know and we don't want to start over. There's a whole number of reasons, right, that come into play. But I think the reality is that if you really are sincerely upfront with yourself, from the beginning, like, this really isn't going in the direction that you wanted to go in, and
Exactly.
you probably should step away sooner rather than later once
Hmm.
your heart's broken and you feel like you've been used and torn down and whatever else might have happened through the toxicity of the relationship.
And I
So I'm
think
going to
that
go
some
to our
people
producer and
stay
see
in
if,
it long.
what'd you say?
No, I was going to say, and I think a lot of us women stay in relationships longer than we should because we've invested so much time. You've
Mm-hmm.
invested time, you've invested finances,
Right.
met the whole family, and now out of embarrassment and out of pride and ego, you stay in something that you know ain't gonna work.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, I know I stayed at least 3 years longer than I should have in my marriage. And I don't think it was an ego thing for me as much as it was just making sure that my daughter was going to be okay. I just didn't want to leave at a time where she would feel like, oh, the world is coming to an end and somehow it was going to have such a detrimental impact on her. And I felt like when I actually did leave, it was the perfect time because
Mhm.
she was able to kind of get back up and move on, move
Mhm.
on with her life, be able to not miss a step in
Right.
terms of education and her friends. And, of course, there is an impact because divorce does have an impact on the
Of
children,
course.
on the people involved. But I think if you can minimize that, that's the goal, right? So I know we have about 6 minutes left. I wanted to see if there are any comments. I want to go to the producer and see, are there any comments? Do we have anyone with questions or comments from the audience? She'll usually respond in if there are. But in the meantime, while we're waiting for her, one thing that you felt surprised about, Eileen, when you got back into the dating scene, especially, considering social media. I know for me, social media was not nearly as big as
No,
it is now.
not at all. One thing that I found surprising in the dating scene.
Yes.
Mm, hmm. That I don't know.
Was
Um,
social media around when you were dating
Consistency.
before?
No,
No.
no,
Okay.
no. I would say consistency is interesting, and the games that men play.
Yeah.
I definitely. And Cincinnati is so small. You might go somewhere and someone's trying to holler at you, and Next day you see them at the mall with their boo. Just little things like that you're like,
Right.
wow,
You're
okay.
like, oh, I thought you were single. Like,
yeah. So again, for sure. No, I would say that's definitely an interesting, and a lot of Netflix and chill. That's not something that I ever really got into. I always find it interesting when people are dating and they don't do anything but kind of Netflix and chill. If that's you, that's you. But I just,
I'm gonna need you to do more than Netflix and chill. Okay, so this last 4 minutes I'm gonna dedicate to the men to know what is not okay.
Exactly.
Like, if you can't afford to go on dates, then you shouldn't be dating. If all you want to do is Netflix and chill, find another one. Like, I know me personally, I don't want to just Netflix and chill. I want to go out. I want to do adventurous things, whether it be, going to a game or going and doing some kind of zip lining or anything that is just, getting you out of the house and doing something fun and getting engaged with the person.
Right.
Like Netflix and chill is just like, this is your way of getting hooked up. I don't get it. Like, that's not dating.
Yeah.
Anything that you want to share with the audience in terms of some of your experiences, or you're like, you know what, that's not it.
That's not it. Oh, Toyia, you be putting me on the spot. That is not it.
What about your DMs? Like, do you get a lot of people hitting you in your DM on Instagram or on Facebook? And what are some of the lines where you're like, you know what, I would actually go out with him? Or the ones where you're like, yeah, please, never again?
You know what? I always say this all the time. I hardly get any DMs.
Okay.
And the gentlemen who get in my DMs are so respectful. I don't know if it's the verses. Maybe I put too many verses out there on my social media and, references to the Bible. I don't know if that's what deters. I really don't get anyone. And if I do, they're so respectful.
You think the Bible talk keeps them away?
Keeps them away. It filters the clowns from the crowns. The clowns from the crowns.
I love it.
Yeah.
The clowns from the crowns.
Yeah.
Because we all want a king, right? We just want to be a queen. We want to be treated right. We want to treat our men right. But you can't do that if you're in a relationship that's unevenly yoked and it's not a balanced situation. So at the end of the day, we all just want to be loved and give love. And I think that it's important that you go into a relationship eyes wide open and just, give your intentions. If you don't have any intention of being in a serious relationship, say that. Absolutely. If you are interested in a polyamorous relationship, say that. Give the person an opportunity to accept or decline.
Absolutely.
With that, we are nearing the end of the show. Any last words or contact information for people that are looking for a realtor or need fitness instructing, whatever you would like to give for the last minute as far as contact?
Awesome. Okay, so my last words, and I said this to someone not that long ago. So my last words will be that clowns and crowns get the same attention. They're both, they're both out there. They're going to get the same attention. So ladies, be careful and listen to the sound, because a clown is as what is the word I'm trying to say? They get as much attention. So be careful and pay attention to those flags and have the audacity to love. Have the audacity to love. You deserve it. For me, you can contact me at Latina0441 on IG, LinkedIn, and Facebook. I am, again, a realtor for Keller Williams 7 Hills. And I'm also a fitness instructor. I do ride and hit for Crunch and Kenwood. So if you want to work out, come get some of this workout. And if you want to buy or sell, I can do that too.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again, Eileen, for joining us tonight.
Yes.
Make sure you're joining us next month. We're going to make sure we get a male perspective as well on this whole thing called dating in 2021. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Today's episode of The Plug is sponsored by the following companies. At the Platinum level, we have the Stadium 513 Bar and Grill. Get in the game with the Stadium 513, a sports bar opening in November of 2021 at 8021 Hamilton Avenue, just south of Mount Healthy High School. Stop by every Sunday during football season for a chance to win a free wing basket. At the Gold level, we have the Pure Black Experience. Cincinnati, are you ready for a Pure Black experience? Saturday, November 13th, is Old School Lando's annual Pure Black Affair. For tickets or information, go to www.rilentertainment.net. Again, that's www.realentertainment.net. At the silver level, we have Vote Philip O'Neill for City Council. Philip believes we need to get back to the basics of integrity, honesty, and trust. The city needs more servant leadership, putting you, the people of Cincinnati, first. Philip O'Neill is a candidate for the people. Find him on Facebook at Vote for Philip O'Neill and online at www.votephilopo'neill.com. CC's Sweets and Royal Treats is a home bakery. They use the best ingredients and pride themselves on making each order unique, beautiful, and delicious. For more information, follow them at CC's Sweets and Royal Treats on Facebook and Instagram. And last but certainly not least, Donnie Young, an ADT authorized provider, supplying you with all of your security needs for your home, business, and beyond. For more details, call Donnie at 513-623-0679. The Plug thanks all of our sponsors for helping us keep you connected.